Booleans are probably the easiest and arguably the most important data type. And so when your code is executed, pretty much everything is going to boil down to some form of a Boolean. And a Boolean, or a bool for short, is a true or a false value. That's it. It can't be a number, it can't be a string, it can't be anything. It's either true or false. It's either 1 or 0. 1 being true, 0 being false. And so we could say something like, can you code is equal to true, because, well, you're going through this course, I would say you can code. And then we can say a conditional, which we haven't learned about yet, but we'll learn about these shortly. We can say if can code is equal to true, and notice that it's got a capital T. False also has a capital F in Python. Print. You can code. And let's go ahead and execute this. Python booleans.py, and it says you can code. Now, what if I change this to false? This is not going to work. This is simply going to print out nothing, as we expected. And that's because we're saying, first of all, can code. This is like saying true is equal to true. Actually, that's not. That was a lie. Now it's like saying it's true. So can code is a lot like saying this. Because this value is true and we're comparing it to a true value, it's going to execute this code. And notice the indentation. The indentation is going to become more and more important in Python as we progress through this. Now, when I say everything boils down to a Boolean, and we'll touch more on this when we're talking about comparison operators, which is the if keyword here. An if statement is always looking for something to be true. So if can code is equal to 1, or if it's a string, if I can spell that right, of any kind, if can code is going to take this value and try to evaluate it. Is it true? Is it false? And that's basically boiling it down to a Boolean. And because there's a value in here, Python is going to say that string is actually true. And we're going to say this is true. And the if condition here, the if statement, is looking for a true value. It's always looking for something to be true. If it's false, it skips it. Now, there's not really much to do here, just because Booleans are so basic. It's either true or it's false. There's no other option. And this is a Boolean. Once more, I'm saying B-O-O-L-E-A-N, or sometimes you'll see the word bool for short. In the next lesson, let's talk about none, which is basically nothing. None is a data type that means there's nothing in it yet, or we've purposely set it to be nothing. And it looks a lot like a Boolean, where instead of using lowercase, we use uppercase. And you'll notice that N-O-N-E is actually highlighted here versus N-O-N-E is not highlighted here. And that means one is a keyword, one is not a keyword. So we could say something like, my wallet has nothing in it. And then down the road, we could have some sort of code. And then we could say the wallet has $82.45 in it. Now, all this is doing is saying, hey, there's going to be a variable down the road, and we need to be able to put something in it. But we need to be able to maybe write that variable a little bit early. Now, this is really hard to explain without more complicated code, but all you need to know for this particular lesson is that none literally means nothing. There's nothing in it. It's just an empty variable. And then we tend to overwrite that a little bit later. So in the real world, you're going to see something like wallet is equal to none. And then we could say, if wallet is none, and this is a comparison operator, but notice we're not using the same one we used before. We're saying is none. And that means wallet literally is nothing. Print, there's nothing in my wallet. And we could execute this by doing Python none.py, and it says there's nothing in my wallet. We could also do the standard type of comparison, and it's going to do the exact same thing. Now, those comparisons are actually different. That's a subject for another day. But usually what you're going to see is if wallet is none, then we could say there's nothing in my wallet. Wallet is equal to 82.45. And then we could say print, my wallet has wallet. And really, this is just going to execute from the top to the bottom. So it says there's nothing in my wallet. If there is nothing in my wallet, reassign that so there's $82.45 in there, and then say print my wallet has $82.45 in there. Now there's nothing to do with this particular lesson because none is also super, super easy, and we're getting really close to learning about conditional statements, which is basically lines 3 through 5 here. But before we move on, let's talk about indexing and slicing iterables.